Hey guys, it's Mandy. We're going to be starting a new series called Mental Health Motivation Mondays, where on Mondays we're going to have short videos regarding mental health and how to kind of get through day-to-day struggles with mental health. First, I want to definitely, make the legal beagles happy and state that I am not a mental health professional by any means. This is purely just my opinions. These are things that have worked for me, and basically a lot of just Google searching and experience on my own behalf. But I am not a mental health professional. If you feel that you need a mental health professional, there are links below in the description to get you in the right direction. But again, I am not a psychiatrist, I am not a psychotherapist, social worker, any of that jazz. I'm just a licensed optician that happens to have had anxiety, mental health issues, depression since she was a teenager. Probably even sooner. So it's just my feelings. So in today's episode, we're first going to kind of talk about the things I personally have gone through, who I am, and how I kind of got to a place that is pretty good. And of course, anybody here who's had mental, issues of any sort, you know what I'm talking about. We're never cured. It's something that we have to deal with every day, and that's fine. But I'm okay with where I am. And let's kind of talk about how I got there and the times when I wasn't so okay. So I would definitely say the first memory I have of any sort of anxiety would have been about the time I first saw the movie Casper, which sounds kind of crazy, and I understand that. But the first time I remember having any sort of anxiety or, phobia towards death, which is pretty much my biggest phobia, I would say. Now that I'm an adult, I think a lot of that is a mix of fears of uncertainty, fears of control, because when you die, you don't have control, or you don't get to know when. And for somebody like me, that is a lot of unknowns and uncertainties that I struggle with dealing with. Times of me just randomly outbursting crying because I was afraid to die. And not that anything particular was going on where I was at risk of dying. It was just purely I was afraid of dying, and crying, uncontrollably was how I handled it. Mind you, I'm probably 8-9 years old when this is going on. Of course, my family was, as helpful as they can be, just trying to explain to me that I'm going to live a long time. But of course, as you grow up, you realize that's not true. The next, and they're really not chronologically speaking, but for the sake of this, in high school, a kid that I went to youth group with had passed away, and that was really hard for me. It was a realization that, just because we're young, definitely does not mean we get to live forever. And that was a big realization to that. Who isn't afraid of death? And apparently there are people who are not afraid of death. My husband, for example, that's just not something he fears, which blows my mind. Like, I envy him and his ability to just kind of roll concern off his back. It's obviously not something I do. That's not me at all. I'd say, like, in my high school age, I would just feel anxious. Again, now that I'm an adult, I understand what those feelings were, but at the time I really had no idea, like, why do I feel the way I feel? I remember having stomach aches. This is probably even in middle school. Having stomach aches every morning before school, and thought that the symptoms I was having was purely physical issues, that those were mental issues. But it's hard when you're not the person experiencing them, or you're young and you don't understand what it is you're going through, the difference between physical illness and mental illness. And hopefully that's something that down the road people can kind of normalize, and it's easier to have that conversation. That's my hope for this channel, is to kind of normalize these feelings that you're having, that I'm having, that your kid might be having, whatever it may be. If you're finding value in that, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and hit me a like. That way I kind of know that you are getting value from this, and I should keep going. Mental Health Motivation Mondays. So in high school, I would just kind of feel this overwhelming feeling of something's on my chest, my heart would race, I would just feel like I need to go cry without having any understanding as to why on earth I needed to cry. So the nice thing about high school is like in the middle of class, like, nobody's in the bathroom, so you could like totally peace out and go like have a cry and let that be that. The other upside to being like a preppy goth kid, crying only smeared your eyeliner in the best of possible ways. Nice little, paper towel under the eye. You looked golden, or you looked high. High school was difficult. I'm very lucky in hindsight. My experience in high school could have been far, far worse. I know many people who had gone through things what I would feel like are much harder than what I have gone through. And salute to you guys, because still being here after, say, coming out as gay or trans, or I don't know how dark I want to get with this, but yeah, like people who have been raped or had like physical issues at home where, stepdad was beating you up or something. Let's be real, mental health and mental illnesses can get dark. So I suppose we should just be honest about it. And more power to those of you who are going through those things. Again, if you are somebody who's going through those things that are just terrible, and if you need help, don't be afraid to seek help. If you look in the description down below, we'll have some additional links for you guys. So then after high school, you know how it is, you turn into an adult, you have to go and do your thing. About then was when I started to take a little extra effort to figure out why I was feeling the way I was feeling and how I could fix it. And the nice thing about when I was 18, 19 years old, probably about when Google became a thing, and it was much easier to find out things on your own. So I've been professionally diagnosed with anxiety and depression. I have been self-diagnosed with ADD, OCD. And the reason why I define those differences is because I feel that if you have a mental illness that you want to be treated, that's when you go see professional help. If you have a mental illness that you don't necessarily want to have treated, I did try to have my ADD looked at with my primary care physician. Medication made me sick. It wasn't worth it. So I kind of just told everybody around me, like, look, I'll go from 0 to 60 in 5 seconds, but it'll never be a dull day around me. So accept it and deal with it. Just dealing with it doesn't always work. It's not what's always best for you mentally. So be sure, and I can't stress this enough, if you feel that you need help, there's nothing wrong with that. So I go on, I have a job, I go to college, things like that. I went to more so of an online college, so the whole stress of going to like a dorm room or being far away from family wasn't, something I had to deal with, which is probably why I didn't go to a traditional college, because could you imagine being by yourself with your own thoughts and some stranger? Not my thing. So everything was pretty easy breezy, figuring out what worked for me until my son was born. Any parent here knows that when you become a parent, your life doesn't matter nearly as much as theirs. And that comes with a lot of additional stresses. And not even just the stresses of, keeping the kid alive, but making sure you don't raise a little jerk, I'm sure you can relate, right? And if you can relate, be sure to hit that like button and tell me down in the comments how you feel about that. As your child grows up, they're 4, 5, 6 years old, and you start to see that they're just like you. And it was very easy for me to tell that because my husband and I are very, very, very different people, especially mental illness-wise. I have all of it. He has none of it. It was very obvious to me that we're the same person. It is a little different since he's a boy, that everything kind of manifests differently with boys, as many of you probably know. And that worries me because I want to make sure that I understand what he's going through so I can help him get through those things. And that is a very stressful thought. Knowing, when I was a teenager, how little I valued my own life, just knowing that there's a solid chance my son's going to go through the same feelings is scary. It's real and it's normal. You're not the only one. Your kid's not the only one. It's just important to acknowledge it. I would say that making sure your child understands that what you're feeling is normal. You're not the only one who feels this way. And if you feel like you need to have help, come to me. Every parent knows we'll do anything for our kid. So I feel like I've rattled on and on enough about my personal journey. In our next episode, we're going to go ahead and talk about some ways of dealing with anxiety and depression. So if you're finding value in this video, please hit that like button, that subscribe button, and leave a comment below if you suffer from mental illness and some things that you have kind of done to kind of help yourself get through things. And remember, it's okay to not be okay. Have a good one. So in next week's that's a hard word to say. So in next week, oh my Lord, you hear this? Put this in the freaking funnies. So in next week's, oh my God, get it together. I don't like any of that either. This is why you write a script, Amanda.